What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope you all are doing well. It is a sunny day here in New York, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Candy, are you there?
I am here. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Do you have any exciting weekend plans ahead?
I am not an exciting person. I have no plans. I do have
I
an agenda for office hours, though.
I like that. As far as my weekend plans, Candy, I think it's just going to be a lot of basketball and a little Father's Day, right? So tonight we've got two really big games: Atlanta, Philly, Utah, Clippers, and then tomorrow night, Game 7, Milwaukee, Brooklyn. Community, if you are not familiar, go to YouTube, type in Zaza Pachulia Game 7. It's one of the best 10 seconds of pure excitement you'll ever see. Highly recommend that plug for later. But certainly know that you guys are not here to listen to recommendations about funny niche NBA player YouTube videos. So Candy, would love to just kind of dive right into the questions, and just some quick housekeeping notes or notes for you all. We do have some kind of notes from our economist that we'll try to weave into the hour. But without further ado, Candy, would love to just get started with the questions we got from the community themselves.
Absolutely. And as we usually do, I've taken the questions from the community that were submitted both in office hours and on Twitter and general chat, and then sort of consolidated them. So your question may not be asked with the exact same phrasing that you presented it, but there were so many of kind of the same topics that we have made sure to cover all of the key points that have been put out there, starting with the Holo Icon Day as a retro. So we're going to go through and discuss, how that worked out. And starting with eligibility. So this refers to the collector score, the cool cats, etc. And the first question that we'd like to address, Jacob, is talking about how the collector score was calculated and what kind of changes, if any, can we expect moving forward? Did this work as we had hoped?
Sure. So I think on a very holistic level, we arrived at 7,500 for the collector's score. Um, Looking at the data, looking at where collectors were in the cluster of collector scores, and getting a better idea, a better sense from our data team of how can we create a drop where if you work your way into eligibility, you have at least like a 25% chance of getting a pack. And that's where we arrived at 7,500. Now, to be fully transparent, I did not expect us to see 5,000 collectors work themselves into eligibility on the drop. That came as a surprise. So I was actually anticipating that collectors would have about a 33 to 40% chance of getting a pack. But as more and more collectors earned themselves eligibility, of course, that percentage went down. Um, as for kind of the broad effects, I think it's a little too soon to say exactly, but the early signs are promising that this was a fair kind of way to create eligibility, and we're seeing that the collectors that were able to get into the queue tend to be the ones that most value and covet Holo Icon moments. So figuring out that system was imperative for us to ensure that these moments and these packs ended up in the hands of collectors that have been collecting for a long time and are really passionate about the product and the moments on the product.
All right, and that definitely was exciting to see people, getting in the drop and being able to try to snag the Holo Icon. But as we noted, the eligibility still didn't guarantee one of these packs. So the community has a lot of questions about other ways that Dapper may explore eligibility or kind of iterate on the process. The first of those ways is a suggestion about using weighted queues, or something that could benefit people as sort of a mitigation to missing packs repeatedly. Is that something that we've considered?
Yeah, so as many in the community know, we work with a third-party queue provider. And we are intending to build our own queue one day, but it is not as integral to our operations right now as some other really important things we need to build. What I will say is that our team is looking really, really earnestly into opportunities around maybe creating multiple queues or multiple drops around very exclusive packs that have different tiers. So this is a little bit of breaking news, and we'll share more details as they come. But the general premise would be a collector score of a really high number for a legendary pack that only kind of the most active collectors would be able to work themselves into eligibility for. And if you are able to work yourself into eligibility, your chances of getting a pack from that queue are way higher. Then maybe a mid-tier queue for collectors that have a solid collector score, but might not have an elite collector score. And you'd have a much lower chance of getting a pack in that queue, but maybe still a chance. And then last but not least, maybe a lower tier queue that you have a very low chance of getting a pack, but you don't need a crazy high collector score to gain access to that queue. So that's kind of where we're heading with it, as far as kind of our hopes and intentions for upcoming drops. There's a lot of engineering and product work that goes into making that a reality. But that is something that I'm very excited about, because I think it will give newer collectors and less established collectors just a little bit more opportunity, while also rewarding our most active collectors with the best odds of getting a pack. So, I think something like that will happen. No timeline for when, but when that happens, I'm excited about what that could look like.
Thank you. That definitely is something that, as we've seen over the last couple months, the community's really been pushing for. So it's good to know that the team is taking that seriously and kind of working toward solutions that can improve the experience for those that, maybe been having a little bit of difficulty there. Moving on to questions about the drop itself, though, and kind of how that went. For the original playoff blog that was posted, it mentioned that there wouldn't be another release of playoff moments until, those 8 common challenges had been completed. So then we saw yesterday that the Rebound Packs were actually distributed as those playoff packs. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came to be?
Sure. So the playoff packs that were distributed yesterday were originally earmarked from our reservations. We had about 86 or 87% of collectors that reserved a playoff pack actually purchased their playoff pack, but that left us with 13% of, I think it was 250,000 or so packs, which is quite a lot. So we did have enough to make those the rebound packs. For the collectors that worked so diligently to get themselves access to the drop, we wanted to give them a little bit of a consolation prize if they weren't able to get the Holo Icon, and the consolation prize a little more exciting than a typical base set pack. So that's where that decision came from. All of those packs had already been minted. As for everything else from the playoff pack blog that we published this week, that all remains true to form, right? Like, more than anything, we really wanted to just outline why we have a set that is, 90 moments from packs and 22 that are earnable. We wanted to explain the timeline for it, and we really wanted to articulate well that while we'll have a rare pack for the conference finals, and while we'll have a legendary pack for the NBA finals, there will still be common moments coming from both of those series.
Thank you. And so just to reiterate that, what you're saying is that the Rebound Packs that were used as the playoffs packs for the drop yesterday were not actually new packs that we were minting. Those were things that had been part of the initial drop. So this didn't change that distribution model at all. It simply reallocated those from being, stored in the customer service promotion area to distributing them to Rebound purchasers.
That's exactly right. So we didn't mint anything new yesterday specifically for it, and that's why we were so late, or why we had to hold off to announce that those would be the Rebound Packs, because there was always, even if it was just a 1% chance, there was always a chance that more collectors would work themselves into eligibility for the drop than we would have inventory of playoff packs to go around. And we never wanted to promise something that we didn't know for sure we'd be able to come through on. So yeah, I think going forward, as many of you know, we'll have more playoff packs coming next Friday. It will be a slightly different drop or release in that it won't have reservations associated with it. You will need to have a collector score that will be TBA early next week. And yeah, I think the reality is not every collector that tries to get into that queue will come away with a pack, presumably, but there will be ample packs to go around. We're talking over 100,000. So the community will have a really good shot at it if you are active and want to get that pack.
All right, so that is good to know. The other question that we have about the drop specifically is there are still, from the community's calculation, about 3,500 or so MGLEs left after the Holo drop that have not yet been provisioned. Do you know how those are going to be distributed? Any insight there?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of those, an overwhelming majority of those, will be distributed through our legendary finals pack. TBD on how many moments will be in those packs, how many MGLE moments will be in those packs, but I do know for certain that some MGLE moments will be in those packs. I think a majority of them. As far as the LaMelo Ball moments go from the MGLE set, we are still working through our distribution mechanism. We had, what's the right way to put it? We had inopportune timing around our LaMelo Ball MGLE moment getting minted, given the context and all that was happening around Cool Cats, knowing that LaMelo Ball needed to be in the Holo Icon drop. We looked at the kind of community sentiment and we decided that including LaMelo Ball in the MGLE, either premium packs or as a moment you could get in the Holo Icon packs as a rare, that felt a little risky, and it felt almost like a slap in the face to our Cool Cats Master Challenge collectors. And so for us, we want to figure out the right way to distribute those. We are thinking through a lot of different permutations. The timeline on it is not imminent. I could certainly see it stretch later into the summer before we have the right kind of analysis and approach to distributing those moments that we think is the fairest. But for sure, right now, I think most of those MGLE moments that have not been released, you'll see in the legendary finals drop.
Thank you. That is helpful information. I know that especially with, all of the big news about LaMelo recently, that's something that people are, really looking forward to. So we'll have to keep an eye on how that develops. As for kind of, I think maybe the biggest elephant in the room yesterday, the MGLE challenge and the rollout there. That was something that we had released the challenge information while the marketplace was down and while the Holo Icon drop was happening. And that's something that we do need to discuss, kind of the reasoning behind that. So to start, Jacob, can you tell us why there even is a rollout system? And, if we can expect that system to be able to, kind of handle a full reopening instead of this rollout process in the future.
Sure. So yeah, this is, as you put it, the elephant in the room, and definitely what our team feels the worst about today. And so just to be explicitly clear to the community, we are not satisfied with the current system. With that being said, the current system is not out of naivety. We know that there are a lot of reasons why we do it the way we do it. And let me explain maybe on a holistic level why we do it this way. So one common piece of feedback we get is, why would you have the release of challenges tied so closely to the drop when people can't leverage the marketplace? And the very simple reason, or one of many simple reasons, is, say you were to get your Holo Icon pack yesterday, and the MGLE moments in your pack didn't have a challenge associated with it. And maybe you list one or two of those moments. And then the next day, we announce the challenge, and you get burned because you didn't know your moments were about to become parts of challenges. So we want to introduce the challenge coinciding with the drop so that collectors, when they open their pack, they have a good sense of whether the moments they just collected are a part of challenges. And there's thoughtfulness and conscientiousness around kind of not having a collector get burned by just inopportune timing of when we announce the challenge. Now, the flip side of that is, when we announce a challenge, we already know there's a mad dash from the community around not just a moment, but very specific, cheaper serial numbers of that moment. And we're not talking about a dozen collectors competing for that moment. We're talking about thousands of collectors competing for the very same 10 or 20 moments listed across maybe 9 or 10 different moments, right? So that creates kind of pandemonium and a frenzy in the marketplace, that every time we have allowed for a free-for-all, we have seen we've seen tons of marketplace errors and purchase blocks, and frankly, the site kind of breaking in the process. And what that means is that our engineers have to take time away from the great features they're building and be reactive to keeping the site, rebounding the site, getting the site back up so that the marketplace can just resume normal functionality. And it's a really painful experience all around, because no collector is happy, right? Everyone thinks they're going to be the collector that gets that lowest priced moment that's needed for a challenge. But the reality is, when you have thousands of people doing it, you have less than a 1% chance. You have like a 0.1% chance of being the collector that actually snags that moment. And because the competition is so intense, you can't even look at maybe the 20th cheapest listed moment and think that, oh, I'll be able to get that one, because competition is intense around all of those moments. So it's a very concentrated issue. It's simply put, very complicated, and right now the situation we have is kind of the lesser of evils. But we also recognize that even if it is a random rollout to the marketplace, it feels unfair if you are a collector and you're not part of that initial rollout. So, we don't have a solution for you all today, but what I can assure you all is that we have heard the feedback loud and clear, and we are actively exploring options and trying to figure out what the best route forward is, knowing all of these limitations from a technical perspective, all of these limitations from a fairness perspective, and just generally creating a situation where everyone, if they don't get the challenge or the moment required for the challenge, they at least feel like they may have had, Dapper Labs and NBA Top Shot's best interests at heart when we were doing it, right? So it's tough, and surely we'll have more updates for you all in due time around kind of what we settle on as the right solution for this. But it's something that we have known about for a bit, and we're still working through kind of the best outcome. I think the number one thing I want to communicate here is that the intention of marketplace cooldowns is to protect the collector experience on the platform. And while it's done on a 100% randomized basis, every single collector will gain access to the marketplace before any one collector has the opportunity to purchase multiple moments, right? Because we have cooldowns in effect. No collector is able to purchase twice before any collector is able to purchase once. But again, we've heard the community feedback loud and clear, and not just the community team on this. Everyone from the very top has heard the feedback loud and clear, and we will look into all of these different ways to approach challenges and challenge rollout differently, and figure out kind of the best path forward on.
And that, I think I would like to reiterate, like when Jacob says that we've heard it loud and clear, the comments that people were sharing yesterday, the feedback in Discord and Twitter and on Twitch, those are things that, we were literally screenshotting and sharing and giving the most blunt of feedback to make sure that everybody got a full awareness of the community sentiment, because it's something that we do think is very important to make sure that we're building a product that's, not just something cool, but it's something for the community, which means that we need to understand, how the community is feeling about things and where your biggest stress points are. And so this is something that, especially given, the stakes of this particular MGLE challenge is something that having that visibility, even though it was a fully randomized, rollout in terms of who got access, because you couldn't see the randomization, it felt bad. And we don't want to continue creating situations where something feels unfair, and even though it's not, that's not something that we're trying to build. So definitely something we're working on fixing.
Yeah, and we want to hear from you all. So if you have ideas, if you have suggestions, surely our team has thought of a lot of stuff. And some of those ideas are, creating a bid system, creating kind of, a potential opportunity to announce the moments needed for a challenge without announcing what the reward will be. But at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to the fundamental issue of what happens when you say this moment will be needed for a challenge reward, and all of a sudden we have tens of thousands of collectors hunting the exact same moment at the exact time, because that just leads to problems. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
And so that, is something that we're aware and we're working on. But moving, I think, on from that topic, because, continuing to focus on it isn't going to help us move forward in office hours today. We can move to the future directions of Top Shot and kind of the subcategories there. So community suggestions. These are things that I saw people throwing out suggestions for ways to make Top Shot better, and want to get some input from Jacob on, what our impressions are. The first one being a suggestion about the playoff moments, because there are 112 of them. And obviously for collector score, you will get a set completion bonus if you collect all 112. What about breaking those down into subcategories where there are sets based off of the moments for individual teams, so that you could have the team set and then the full playoff set? Is that something that we would consider to give people ways to essentially, kind of extend that utility and get that sense of accomplishment for completing a team, a little boost to collector score, and still kind of growing the product?
Yeah, there was a lot there, Candy. I'm sorry, I may have missed kind of where the specific question came in. Would you mind just repeating part of that?
Sure. For the playoffs moments that we're rolling out right now, could there be a collector score bonus for collecting all moments for a specific team?
It's possible down the road. It's not something that, to my knowledge, is on our radar. As you know, we have team set bonuses and complete team bonuses, and we're going to continue to iterate and expand bonuses over time. I think, similar to badges, when we introduced badges, the community very quickly started suggesting tons of badge ideas, and they're all great. But there are diminished returns when we introduce too much at once. So we introduced 3 different bonuses at once around collector score for Holo Icon. We are still looking at the data. We are tinkering and evaluating kind of what we'll need to change, what we'll need upgrading for. And then there were 4, what we'll need upgrading for the finals legendary and future packs to come. So I would say we're still kind of in our infancy when it comes to bonuses and what we're doing there. So to your question, it's a blank slate, and we'll look into every decision we make with data and try to make the right decisions. But it's not something that's imminently on my radar.
Alrighty. What about, we get a lot of suggestions, especially recently, about breaking up the Holo Icon packs. So, because right now in a Holo Icon pack, you have one Holo Icon and then the 3 MGLE moments. And that's definitely a lot of action happening in one pack. So the community has been pretty regularly expressing some sentiment that they would like to see perhaps less MGLE in those Holo Icon packs. And then the ones that, say if you reduce it to 2, you could then create MGLE packs as rebounds during those drops. Is that something we've considered adjusting the pack offerings to increase distribution?
Yeah, I think it's something that we're open to. As a team, we feel pretty aligned around not changing packs mid-series, right? So the same Holo Icon offering from drop 1 was the same in drop 3. And that felt important for consistency purposes. Now, that being said, going into series 3 next season, I would not be shocked if we created more mechanisms and more opportunities to win. Now, I think it's really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, but frankly put, rebound packs are less than 3 months old, and Holo Icons were released, I want to say in well before that, certainly, but maybe even January. So when we're looking at the scheme of things here, we didn't even know that rebound packs would be an opportunity at the start of our Holo Icon journey in series 2. I think now that we know we have rebound packs as a lever to pull for upcoming kind of legendary drops, it's something that we'll look into. Probably more for series 3 than I would say for series 2, but the feedback has been heard by the whether there are opportunities even in series 2 to do something. So we'll check that out.
All right. In other community suggestions, people are still requesting the ability to adjust a price of a listing without having to cancel the sale and relist it, because obviously there are cooldowns involved, and if you're trying to change a price, you're not just stopping your sale, you're simply adjusting. Is that an option for us in the future? Is that on our radar?
It's definitely on our radar. If you go to NBA or ideas.nba top shot, the top submitted suggestion. So definitely on our radar. It is not a simple lift. my understanding, talking to the engineers, talking to the product team around it. Because everything happens on the blockchain, you need discrete kind of actions such as canceled event, relisted. Now, with that being said, I think we'll look into it long term, figure out, because I agree, right? Like, I think it would be just super convenient for our community to be able to edit things in one without having to worry about cooldowns or without having to worry about just the, even if it's not a super time consuming process, it is a slightly more tedious process than the ideal would be to edit a listing. Again, I don't think we have an imminent solution there. It is on our radar. If we, largely speaking, we look into things that have the biggest impact on community, with kind of the clearest low-hanging fruit impact opportunities for us to productize and improve. So that is one that I think is a nice to have, not necessarily an essential to have. And we'll look into ways that we can bring it to the forefront of the collector experience down the line, but probably not in the immediate future.
Perfect. And so, actually, speaking of collector experience, let's move on to that category of questions. First being a request for adding a simple calendar feature to the website itself. That way, folks could easily track in one spot upcoming drops, challenges, quests, the rest of the timeline for Series 2.
Yeah, I think we're all aligned internally that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit on just surfacing information on our website. And those conversations are actively ongoing. I will say that, right now from the website, we link out to the blog where that content is kind of available in the form of the playoff pack kind of details from this week's blog, or Holo Icon or upcoming drop details in previous week's blogs. So, I think the long-term goal is absolutely to have it kind of thoughtfully displayed to the best of our knowledge on the homepage. But, I think in the interim right now, we're trying to do a lot of other things that also have big impacts on the community sentiment and excitement. So, just a matter of bandwidth and making it happen.
All right. So, speaking of bandwidth and making things happen, you mentioned this briefly in one of your answers earlier, but any update on either like a queue style system? The same moment.
Yeah. I think a queue style system on an individual moment basis becomes really hard for our team to manage. I do think a bid system is inevitable. I think everyone from the very top to, uh, just everyone that I talk to at the company, we're aligned that a bid system would be very kind of good for the collector experience. It adds a little bit more strategy and dynamic kind of assessment of the moments you want. So I'm very excited about that long term. It is, in the process, I would say over the summer, we'll probably scope out what that looks like, and how feasible it is. I would not suggest, I would not say that we're going to have something in the very near future around it, but I think, again, it's inevitable that we'll have a bidding system at some point on top.
Alrighty. And also, regarding collector experience and exciting things and LaMelo being a frequent flyer in our questions today, will there be a Rookie of the Year badge rolling out, or anything like MVP or championship winner badges?
Yeah, no announcement on badges for today. I think the MVP badge, the Rookie of the Year badge, the Championship Winner badge, they're all really interesting ideas. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there is a little diminished or dilution of how special a badge is when there are too many badges out in the ecosystem. If I had to guess, and this is just Jacob, not Dapper Labs, guessing. Like, I think we'll eventually add more badges. I don't have a ton. If we are adding more badges, we're not going to add a ton more at once. It will be very iterative. So I think there are exciting ones out there that we can look into, but I don't have a good sense of which ones and how soon.
All right. And so in other questions, kind of shifting the topic a little bit, for questions about people have heard about VIP support and kind of wondering what we are looking at with the VIP support system. I know that we've already rolled out Cool Cats, but is there anything else kind of on the timeline for collectors?
Yeah, we do now have a VIP support team that is, actively looking into our most active collectors' issues, and if an athlete is having an issue, we can try to kind of address those problems. I think, as a whole, support has come such a long way from when we only had one customer support person on our team in December. The team now has, I want to say, 40 or so people. So response times have gotten much, much faster, and we've cleared out our backlog pretty significantly. So we're excited about what that looks like, and what that could mean long term. Our goal is to eventually get to a point where every collector is having their ticket responded to in, if not 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, right? So we've got a ways to go until we're there, but Roham has been very explicit and committed to us scaling the team on support side as much as we need to be able to get to a point where we can get tickets resolved really, really quickly. So I'm excited about what that looks like.
Fantastic. And actually, speaking of Roham, let's move on to the incentivization section, because the first question there is wondering if there are any updates to the marketplace fee return or rake reward that Roham had mentioned when he was here previously.
Yeah, community, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, I'll start to weave in some notes from our economist that we just brought onto the team. Really excited to have him here. He's made a tremendous impact already with just really thoughtful advice. And before joining the team, he was an active collector on Top Shot, so he really understands kind of the concerns of the community, which is great to have. Verbatim, I'll just kind of use his words to explain this. If we're talking about market reimbursement, it's important for the community to know that this will credit collectors who have bought rather than crediting collectors who are selling. There's a little bit of a misunderstanding perhaps in the community around it, but we want the 5% fee to be used to incentivize collectors acquiring new moments. So it would be passed through in part to the buyer as a rebate, but not returned to the seller if we zoomed in at a micro level of kind of one transaction at a time. And in all likelihood, it will start out as an experiment. It will start out as a bold beat, if you will, where we'll run it as a promotion to start and see how the community responds to it before we commit to it as a perpetual program.
All righty. And I guess in addition to marketplace fees and things like that, what about referral programs? Very early on in Top Shot days, you had the ability to invite other players and kind of got baller status rewards. And then that was removed for a while. Is that something that we're looking at bringing back?
Yes, uh, for the first time in a long time, those conversations have started back in earnest of what a referral program could look like. Uh, I don't have a ton of details to share today, but it would not be a monetary bonus. There is an avenue in which your referrals could lead to improving your collector score if the person you refer becomes an active collector. We'll share more details when we're ready for it. I do not think we're equipped to be able to accommodate referrals on a retroactive basis. So it will be kind of the thing where from the day we announce it and going forward, unless I'm missing something from the product side that would enable to tie a referral back to someone else. That seems very difficult. But I think the TLDR to this point is I think we're getting closer, and maybe even this summer to seeing what our referral bonus could look like on Top Shot.
Thank you. And speaking of bonuses, we've been asked if badges or individual moment stacking will have any collector score utility added in, which I think is interesting because most individual moments will qualify for being part of a team that you could then get a bonus for, but badges or just stacking in general, Jacob?
Yeah. So with badges, it's definitely something I've seen from the community a lot and have, you know, forwarded along to the team at large. And right now, where we stand is that it's a little bit of a slippery slope that we're afraid of. Where if we introduce badges as bonuses for moments, then what does that mean around serial numbers? And what does that mean around extra low serial numbers? And that becomes a fairly impossible system to explain to a newer collector. Badged moments in general are highly coveted for a ton of reasons. And I think for Top Shot, it's important for us to kind of reframe the narrative and the discussion that boosting your collector score is not the only way to collect on Top Shot. Becoming eligible for drops is not the end all be all on Top Shot. Building a collection that you love with moments that you love is super important to your collector journey. And generally speaking, the badged moments are the moments that our community gravitates to from a kind of intrinsic connection level. So I don't think the conversation's over there, but I would say that's kind of where our point of view is for today.
All right. And so let's go back to the baller status actually for a couple questions, because we are already using collector score as a drop requirement. And also the net marketplace spend has been an additional drop requirement that we've been adding in for some drops. But wondering if the baller status points will be considered as well, or how we might incentivize people to be increasing their baller point status.
Yeah, baller status, I think for us is an achievement based kind of uh, mini game within Top Shot. It's not something that we're super zoomed in on right now, just because we're so excited about collector score and what score can do for our community as far as providing utility and providing strategy and all of these different things. So I don't really have much as far as baller status. I don't think it would be ever's too strong, but it's not on my radar that it's going to be a part of future pack queue requirements. I think for us, we're far more focused on kind of optimizing the collector score angle and collectors that want to level up their baller status. are certainly encouraged to, and there are really cool, fun ways to do that. But that's not as much of our priority right now compared to making collector's score the very best it can be.
All right, so with making collector's score the very best that it can be then, uh, we've seen some suggestions that there's not really an incentive right now to increase your collector's score above the minimum requirement for drop. So people are kind of looking at collector's score and maybe seeing that as the hard cap and saying, like, this is my goal, I don't need to go further. Is there, I guess, what is our Top Shot's feelings on that, with people kind of stopping at the hard cap just to become eligible?
Yeah, I think on a lot of levels, it's a little too soon to say. We are very data driven, and we only have, I guess, 19, 20 hours of data post Holo Icon to evaluate. So we want more time before we kind of speak too strongly there. But I think what I'm most excited about as a development from this week is this concept of kind of tiered drops, where if you have a super, super high collector score, your chances of getting a pack are going to be higher because you're going to be in a queue with those who also have a super high collector score. Meanwhile, if you have a pretty high collector score, you have a less than great chance, but you have an okay chance of getting a pack. And if you have a low collector score, but above a certain threshold that's kind of multi-account proofed, you have the opportunity, a low chance, but you still have a chance to get a great pack. So that will come, just to be, I'm going to make up the numbers as we go, but let's say we have 5,000 packs for an upcoming rare or a legendary drop. Again, community, do not aggregate the 5,000. This is just very much me giving a ballpark example. If we have 5,000 packs, maybe we can reserve 2,000 of those 5,000 for a group of maybe the 3,000 highest collector scores. So you have, a 67% chance of getting a pack. Then we reserve 2,000 of those 5,000 for collectors that have a collector score above, let's say, 2,500 or 5,000. I don't know what the number is. And you have, let's say, a 10 to 25% chance of getting a pack through that queue. And then we have 1,000 packs reserved for collector scores over, let's say, 500 or 1,000. And you have a chance at that queue. This advantages, everyone in the community, because the most active collectors have the best shot. The kind of newer collectors that are still just getting started have a shot. So I'm very excited about all that, what that all could look like.
All right, and that is definitely a promising outlook for finding ways to reward people with their varying levels of collector score. So that way we're not, as we've seen a lot of the feedback, sort of you have a high collector score and you're in a drop, or you are a brand new user and you can, come in and you can, get one of the new collector packs. But everybody in the middle has sort of, been missing the love, it feels. So this system does sound like something that would be able to give more people the ability to get involved. Um,
Yeah, and Candy, just want to really emphasize here, like, we are not infallible, and we are very, very receptive to community feedback. So, like, it's inevitable when we roll out new things. Collector Score, like, believe it or not, is, just about a month old, and bonuses are even younger. So it's inevitable and to be expected that nothing is perfect at rollout, and we will tinker around the edges to make it better. So we appreciate your patience as a community as we work to make that happen.
so with the understanding that we're kind of moving forward and keeping everybody in mind there, let's look at rolling out the end of S2 and beyond. So what are we looking at for, the next month timeline, the remainder of closing out all of, Series 2 and the finals and the conference finals packs?
Yeah, so next week we'll have playoff packs. Uh, Obviously, the conference finals have not started on either side of the bracket, so we will not have that. And then there were four drop until after both of those series have wrapped up, for the very simple premise of, it's really hard for us to pick a moment from game three that's epic at the moment or at the time, and then we realize come game seven, that player hit a game winner, and we only want to take one moment from the series from that player. So we need to kind of wait for the series to play out before we can say definitively which moments we're choosing. Um, and from my understanding, I think the NBA finals are slated, which means the conference finals are slated to end probably around July 4th or so. So I would look at I would look at kind of mid-July as when the rare drop will happen. We'll have another playoff pack between that rare drop and the legendary drop, and I think the legendary will see sometime probably in early August, if I had to guess. And that will round out series two. New collectors coming in will be able to buy their starter pack. That was something new we introduced this week, and work themselves into eligibility playoff pack Q, which will have a low level collector score requirement so that we can ensure people aren't just creating tons of accounts to be eligible. No additional info about kind of price of those packs, uh, and the specific dates, the number of moments in those packs. But it is my understanding that the legendary drop will have metallic gold moments in it, and the conference finals packs will likely have playoff moments in it, aside from the rare conference finals.
All right. So knowing where we're going then, and I know we have the blog that kind of outlines that as well, but now we've got it discussed and we, kind of know a general timeline. We don't have numbers for pricing yet. What about after the series ends and the finals are done? What's going on in the off season? And is there, I guess, incentive for people to continue maintaining a high collector score during the off season?
Oh yeah, we are not kind of metaphorically closing up shop for the summer and going to the. We have huge plans this summer. Very excited about them. We are going to go into the archives of NBA history to run it back. Um, Not ready to reveal which year we're running it back to, which players will be involved, but I think the community is going to be excited about those, and certainly throughout the off season, we'll be introducing new wrinkles to Top Shot that I think will make Top Shot even more fun, unique, and strategic long term. So, yeah, I think while Series 2 is close to wrapping up in early August, Series whatever we're doing for the summer, I don't think we've formally aligned on what the series name will be. I don't think it will be Series 3. I think we're going to reserve Series 3 for next regular season. But whatever series we release in the off season, oh, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the community is going to be really excited about it.
Awesome. And I'm super excited too. What about the Cool Cats Master Challenge hodlers? So we know that the Nine Lives Lounge is something that is in development. We're waiting on kind of the final stuff with Collabland and getting kind of our Discord and that uh, community really set up and rolled out. But in addition to that, is there anything that we can share about expectations moving forward, especially given the fact that, like the remaining Series 2 drops are kind of coming to a close?
Yeah, I think I think a lot of it is kind of waiting for the product integration with Collabland so that we can create the room. But no shortage of really exciting ideas. I think that group we know to be some of our most important collectors on Top Shot for around the timing they came in, the experience they had through Cool Cats, the real roller coaster that it was. So, I think as we've mentioned, having kind of NBA players joining the chat, we actually do have Cats moments, so they'll be in the launch already. I think some other things to tease there. Don't be surprised if members of the Cool Cats Lounge, Nine Lives Lounge, have first access to merch when merch comes to the table. Don't be surprised if they get surprise and delight perks on a recurring basis. I don't think that we're going to just do one thing for that group and be done. I think that is, as Roham has said before, that is kind of the Top Shot Soho house. We want people in Nine Lives Lounge to feel really excited to be there. And I just really want to set expectations that the first thing we do there will not be. So if we do something and you as a community member are wondering, will there be more? Absolutely, there will be more.
Awesome. And I think those are two pretty exciting points here to close out on, understanding that there is more in the future for the Cool Cats Master Challenge hodlers. There's also a lot to look forward to in the upcoming, finals rounds and then the off season. Is there anything else, Jacob, that you would like to share with the community that I haven't asked you about? Maybe the questions haven't been submitted today.
Let me look through some notes just to make sure we're touching on everything. At some point in the very near future, we're going to be giving away the moments that were kind of wrongfully acquired through the whole own the moment situation last week. We will announce when we're doing a giveaway around those moments. They are going to be given away from the Dapper Labs team as they were gifted. I apologize again to the community for my role in that. To put it in simplest terms, we wanted to work with content creators in the community to disseminate information around collector score in the most efficient way possible and the most effective way possible. And we know that several of the creators we talk to have big kind of communities. There was a tacit agreement that sharing that information would not be used for personal gain. That was not explicit in writing. So that was, frankly, my fault and our fault for, trusting an honor system. But we've learned our lesson. That will not happen again. And just want to make sure that the community knows that we are going to be very kind of thoughtful going forward around creating mechanisms to distribute these packs, distribute these moments and disseminate information to the community in a really thoughtful way. If that's live streams as we're doing blog releases, great. If that is other mechanisms, great. But yeah, certainly a hard lesson for me and our team to learn last week. And other notes, other thoughts, other things. No, that's pretty much it. I think, stay tuned. A lot of other, one of the things I've been most excited about is, really, really thrilled about long term is these mint parties, these mint shows where we're breaking down all of the moments that will get to a drop, and bringing NBA players into the fold there so that they can help explain why that moment from that player is so special and why that player is so defend or yada yada yada, and just a lot of other great stuff coming. So overall, nothing else. If I have to make some picks for tonight, I'm going with Philly to take it to 7. Though I wouldn't be shocked at all if Atlanta blew them out. I think it's going to either be Philly winning in a close one or Atlanta winning by like 30 with the Sixers just laying down. And then on the Utah side, I think Utah will push it to Game 7, but I just have such a hard time with that series because not knowing Donovan Mitchell's health, not knowing Mike Conley's health, seeing Paul George look super calm, it will be a really interesting series. But I think out of this weekend, my picks for conference finals are Phoenix, LA, and then on the Eastern Conference side, I have to admit it. I think it's going to be Brooklyn, Atlanta. I never thought I'd say that going the postseason, but just after last night, like I think Philly's going to be able to get in the series, but I think Atlanta just kind of has their number figured out a little bit. Let me know I'm crazy in the chat. Community, this was really awesome as always. Appreciate you all coming through to ask great questions, and we will have the recording of this published on YouTube later with timestamps, and we will continue to share updates regularly as we get them. But huge weekend for basketball fans, and excited to see a lot of other great stuff. Final PSAs here. We did just release 2 more playoff challenges that will run weekend, expire on Monday, and then come Monday we'll have even more playoff challenges. So if you want to get in on those, please do. And last final PSA, just based on something I saw in the chat earlier. Still looking into Quest long term as a solution for a lot of things, and figuring out the right way to roll out quests that don't have unforeseen bottlenecks will be integral to their success long term. So, that's kind of all the PSAs for today. But community, very grateful for your time, and looking forward to chatting more in the coming days. And we'll, of course, see you back here same time next week.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jacob, for spending the hour with us here today, answering the questions, and the community for always giving us the questions to help create a better product for everyone. Much appreciated. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Likewise, have a good one, and community, enjoy the hoops. A lot of good stuff coming.